fishing. I'm convinced that more games let you fish than not. It's become one of the most popular methods of resource collection that pervades gaming. Titles that have the mechanic as its forefront, however, have recently become an indie darling, showcasing the many ways you can enjoy this comfy pastime. Now what'll happen if you sprinkle the seasoning of cosmic horror to this formula, instilling a suspenseful fear of the unknown to your regular pastime? Today, we'll take a look through a game that mixes the comfort with dread, fishing out the mysteries of the deep in an archipelago touched by evil. Why not join me on this fishing trip as for Dredge. Dredge, by Black Salt Games, is an explorative gathering adventure, mixing small-scale naval exploration with the inventory management of resource gathering. Your typical day asks you to juggle between earning money by gathering the resources of the sea and progressing the overall plot through dialogue and exploration. Dredge allows you to enjoy your time at your own pace, letting you work through what you like while enticing you to explore out with the little mysteries that the plot throws at you. You begin with your basic fishing boat, giving you basic material requests, and teaches you the core loop of casting off to gather fish, returning to sell them at the fishmongers, and maintaining upgrades to your ships with your gains. Around the initial area of the Morrows, you'll learn how to spot the tall tale bubbles and the shadows of what's underneath, the restrictions you'll encounter on what kind of resources your equipment will allow you to fish out, and importantly, the management of time and sanity. Fishing is instant, placing you immediately into the varying minigames depending on what you're picking up. All of them only require you to time your one-button input, making it simple but satisfying in a manner that leads to the relaxing fishing experience. Good execution is technically not even required, as successful inputs only speed up the already guaranteed progress of fishing, while incorrect inputs will delay it further, but given enough time, you'll always succeed your attempt. Space is a concern, however, as your catches are all of unique shapes that you'll need to wrestle into your unusually shaped hull. As you fill up more and more of your hull, you'll often find yourself organizing and reorganizing your catches and equipment in an attempt to optimize the space in your hull, but things never seem to fit those pesky corners right. Time itself is also a luxury. You're constantly reminded by the townfolk that your best interest would be to return to port before nightfall. The darkness entails a bit of a sinister vibe, immediately dropping the comfortable feel of daytime and enshrouding you in fog, tanking your visibility. This darkness triggers the accumulation of another status, the Lovecraftian mainstay of your sanity, through panic levels. Indicated by the changing state of the eyeball located on the top UI, panic passively raises while sailing in the darkness of night, and rapidly increases when encountering various aggressive creatures and events that only occur during the later hours, though some also trigger during the daytime. An increase in panic triggers increasing encounters with aggressive events, beginning with simple rock formations that seemingly pop into existence in front of your boat, to elk-like infections that spread across your prized catches, to full-scale phantom shark encounters. Much of these events will cause initially difficult to avoid damage to your boat, and your craft can only take a certain amount of hits before you sink. This gives any nighttime sailing that you choose to do a certain sense of tension, pressured by the lurking worry of whether or not you'll make it back to port before you run dry of sanity and hull health. You can combat this darkness, along with other perks, by working on upgrades for your ship. This is your main incentive goal of your monetization loop, spending your hard-earned money to purchase the unique rods required to catch fish in certain depths, engine pieces to increase your speed, improved headlights to lower sanity loss while increasing nighttime visibility, and even purchase unique equipment like trawling nets and crab pots that increase your catch efficiency even further. Most of these, however, require you to really work for them, as they are initially unavailable for purchasing unless you achieve a certain requirement towards unlocking them. Equipment themselves requiring unlocking through a research tree using research parts, which you'll find by completing Dredge's quests, called pursuits, or by rarely fishing them out of open waters. Hull upgrades, which includes upgrades to your hull capacity, additional slots for equipment types, and increased hull health, will require building materials found by dredging material spots throughout the seas, effectively the same as fishing. These, however, typically take up quite a lot of space in your hull, and you'll often have to decide how much materials versus fish you'll want to bring back from your voyages. Thankfully, unlike fish, which will decay over time to a less than sellable state, materials can be tossed into the storage found on most docks, which transfer over between ports. These upgrades are a decently dramatic boost to your statistics, capable of turning your plodding ship into a speed monster of a craft, or throwing on enough lights to allow you to sustain an entire night's voyage. And you'll need these upgrades to explore the little archipelago that you inhabit in Dredge. Including the initial region of the Morrows, you'll be asked to explore 4 other regions in order to find various key items. These regions contain their own little primary pursuit to complete, along with the occasional side quests dotted along for you to discover. Though most of these requests boil down to either collecting certain things for people or general fetch quests, they vary things up by changing up your end objective for why you're doing their request. Perhaps you'll help some residents move explosives to open up a path for yourself to pass through, or bring a series of artifacts for someone to investigate for you to utilize later yourself. There's typically a decently effective reward to expect when completing these tasks, material or not, and sometimes an odd curveball objective may be thrown at you every now and then. The most tantalizing of which are the main pursuits of the overarching story, which rewards you with various elf-like powers which you can invoke. True to Lovecraftian theme, some of these spells will bring both boons and curses when used, which brings us to an observation of Dredge's use of Lovecraftian themes. In traditional cosmic horror, the terrors that lurk typically only exist as unseen adversaries, causing you to question whether or not these horrors truly exist, or are simply figments of your increasing insanity. More modern applications of the theme have increasingly moved towards the idea of actually combating Lovecraftian monsters, sometimes going so far as allowing you to shoot Cthulhu in the face. Dredge takes from both trains of thought, plunging you into the unknown and making you question the sights taken in from afar. Only after your sanity takes a strain do you begin to encounter the terrors of the deep, but at which point you may question whether or not you're actually being hunted down by true monsters or aberrations of your mind. However, true sea creatures also exist in this world, perceived by both you and its residents alike. At some points, you'll even be tasked to combat these creatures. Within my opinion, this makes these grand sea monsters far less terrifying, as you're given resources that can combat, avoid, or even eliminate them within your voyage. By the end of my experience with Dredge, I was given so many ways to interact with these creatures that I had an absolute lack of worry when confronted, turning them into a mild nuisance rather than a dreaded entity. And I had far more worries dealing with the smaller scale sanity effects, whenever it was the rock formations appearing out of nowhere or the difficult to avoid cosmic typhoons that assail you during a long, panicked night. The most terrifying encounter I had, however, and the one major issue I've had with Dredge, were within dialogue sections. Not because of any sort of terrifying revelation or horrible depictions within text, but because it's a forceful pause to your control over your boat, while the world around you continues on as normal. The main issue of that, and of which becomes apparent in the Gale Cliffs, is that you can still be attacked by creatures while stuck in forced dialogue. You may be forced to wait through a cutscene with dialogue, attempting to detonate some rocks, of which, at the same time, an all-day-long creature comes through to take unavoidable nibbles at your hull. This has caused me more than a few times to take extended voyages between blowing access to routes and returning dockside for repairs, as I had to plan for forced, unavoidable damage between voyages, which doesn't feel like a fault of me and more of the fault of the game. And with that, let's go over my own personal opinions of Dredge. Dredge carries on with the increasing popular genre of resource gatherers, applying the also increasingly popular core loop of fishing. Its main differentiator is within its application of Lovecraftian themes, infusing the game with a sense of unknown and increasing dread. Whenever I fished up a mutated apparition of the usual expected catch, or witnessed the different ways the cosmic evils have affected the environment, it successfully tempts me to continue further exploration to see the extent of what there is to show. The gradual effects of panic and the resulting encounters were also interesting enough for me to seek them out at some point, some of which legitimately gave me the "oh god, oh no, what the hell is that?" sort of feeling. The major set-piece creatures, however, fell short of their intended effects in my eyes. Other than the creature of the Gale Cliffs, which annoyed me due to programmed effects rather than terrified me, none of the other main creatures of the 4 locales ever gave me any sense of worry. They were either non-aggressive or easy to circumvent in some form, making them more of a nuisance than cosmic horrors. The fishing mechanics, however, was appropriately satisfying. The time between catches is brief, foregoing the cast and wait time within fishing, and instead skips straight to the reeling in, of which is also brief, even faster if you succeed in its minigame. The natural inventory management minigame is also cleverly laid out with its slightly awkward hull layouts, forcing you to plan out and properly manage your inventory over catches, making it satisfyingly enjoyable. The key note, however, is by the end of the game, I needed to do less and less of anything other than move forward the plot of the game. The trawling nets effectively generated endless positive income without any sort of interaction, and the only reason I would have to actively fish or dredge was because a pursuit would require a specific fish that my net did not have access to, or to gain materials to upgrade my boat with. Between your spells and your ship upgrades, you become less and less worried about panic effects and sea creatures, with easy ways to circumvent encounters and a large enough hull health to forgive a couple of mistakes. This makes Dredge somewhat missing of that sort of post-game endless replayability. I enjoyed the journey to the end, and the increasing power of my bolt and abilities made my time to that end pleasant. However, after the final set piece, other than the mild urge to complete the fishing encyclopedia, I found no reason to continue playing the game with how much of the main gameplay loop becoming automated. As such, Dredge was a great 8 to 12 hour experience, but don't expect much of a continuous post-game experience like some other games of its genre. Its application of Lovecraft did not scratch my preferential itch, as I enjoyed the traditional form more, but was still an enjoyable use of the theme to me. In most cases, it succeeds in the fun and relaxing general gameplay and atmosphere, while sprinkling that little bit of mystery and dread to keep you entertained. I can recommend Dredge to anyone who's looking for a mostly low-key and easily enjoyable experience with its occasional standout moments, forewarned that it will likely not become a triple-digit entertainment of the likes of some other resource-gathering-focused games. And that's all for today's topic. Thank you for watching till the end, and apologies for the long stint from the last release. We're gearing up to release videos of another format, though reviews will continue to be our bread and butter. Look forward to something different. If you enjoyed today's video, then consider dropping a like down below, as well as letting me know what you think of the game or of the review itself, sharing your experiences, or perhaps letting me know what you perhaps disagree with some points throughout the comments section. Also consider subscribing to the channel, which helps me out a lot, as well as notifies you of future video releases. We also stream on Twitch on most days of the week on twitch.tv/secondop. That's second op with the number 2, showcasing games like these along with other games that you may have missed out on in the past. Joining the community there lets you directly ask me for my thoughts on games or anything in general. And most importantly, enjoy more games.